Imagine standing in a crowded station. You're not thinking about it consciously, but your hand drifts into your pocket. You pull out your phone, you unlock it. Your thumb finds its way to an app you always open when waiting. Maybe social media, maybe email, maybe a game. You didn't plan this. You didn't decide. The environment, the noise, the waiting, the pause in motion spoke to your nervous system. It whispered a command, and without realizing, you obeyed. This is the hidden language of contextual cues. They are the invisible architecture of human behavior, the background signals that shape what we do, when we do it, and often why we can't stop. Let's step into the shadowy world of habits, not the habits themselves, but the stage on which they perform. Because to understand habits is not simply to understand repetition. It is to understand the contexts, the sights, the sounds, the spaces that silently train us and silently trap us. We like to believe that we act because we choose, that willpower, rationality, and conscious decision-making are the prime movers of our daily lives. But behavioral psychology paints a far stranger picture. Habits, researchers tell us, are context-dependent memories. They are less like deliberate scripts and more like reflexes bound to a place, a time, or a situation. Take the simple act of brushing your teeth. Most people do not brush because they actively recall the importance of dental hygiene. They brush because the bathroom mirror, the sink, the sight of a toothbrush, all of these contextual cues trigger the behavior. Remove the cue, and the habit evaporates. It is not willpower that sustains habits. It is environment. The power of contextual cues lies not in their obviousness, but in their subtlety. They weave themselves into the background of our lives until they disappear from sight. Every street corner you pass, every chair you sit on, every ringtone, every face, each of these can be a trigger. You may not notice it, but your nervous system does. Consider this. Smokers in recovery often relapse not because of craving in isolation, but because they walk into a bar or smell cigarette smoke on the wind or see a group of people gathered outside a cafe. The environment resurrects the behavior. Context is the soil, habit is the plant. Remove the soil and the plant withers. Change the soil and new plants grow. This is why trying to change habits in the same environment that created them feels like trying to swim upstream. The room remembers what you've done in it. Long before modern cities, before screens and advertisements, our ancestors relied on contextual cues to survive. The sight of a ripe fruit signaled nourishment. The rustle of grass signaled danger. The return of stars in the same formation signaled migration. Contextual learning was not optional, it was life or death. Our nervous system evolved to bind behaviors to contexts. The environment became a script, guiding our actions long before conscious thought could intervene. That legacy has never left us. Today, the same circuitry that once taught us to find water or avoid predators now teaches us to reach for coffee at 8 a.m. or scroll endlessly at night when we lie in bed. The environment writes on us, we perform what it scripts. Every place has its personality. Your office desk is not just wood and metal, it is a portal. Step into it, and your body remembers. This is where I type, this is where I work, this is where I open my inbox before I even think. Walk into a kitchen, and you are pulled toward the fridge, even if you're not hungry. Sit on the couch, and the television beckons. These loops are self-reinforcing. The more often you respond to a contextual cue, the deeper the groove becomes. Until one day, you are not making choices, you are following tracks laid down long ago. The tragedy and the opportunity is this. Contextual cues can imprison, but they can also liberate. If you find yourself trapped in a loop, snacking whenever you sit on the couch, checking your phone every time you pause, procrastinating whenever you open your laptop, it is not enough to summon discipline. The environment itself must be rewritten. Move the cues, rearrange the stage. If the couch summons hunger, sit elsewhere. If the desk calls forth distraction, work in a library. If the phone whispers to you in silence, leave it in another room. The environment is not neutral. It is the architect of your behavior. Change the architecture, and the behavior changes with it. The science of contextual cues is not merely descriptive, it is prescriptive. You can shape your environment so that it whispers in your favor. Want to read more? Place a book where your eyes naturally fall at night. Want to eat better? Fill the kitchen counter with fruit instead of snacks. Want to meditate? Place a cushion in the corner, a silent invitation. In time, the cues become the behavior. You no longer need to fight yourself. You are guided, not forced. Nudged, not dragged. This is the hidden genius of habit design. You don't change the person first, you change the stage. Here lies the deepest layer of the puzzle. Contextual cues are not just triggers of behavior, they are triggers of identity. Walk into a church, and you may feel reverence even if you are not religious. Step onto a sports field, and you feel competitive even if you don't normally care. Enter your childhood home, and old versions of yourself rise from the past. Contexts summon selves. They bring forth the characters we've been in different times, in different spaces. If you want to change who you are, you must ask, in what rooms do I place myself? What environments call forth the version of me I want to become? No matter how much we change, contextual cues wait patiently. Like ghosts, they haunt the spaces of our lives. This is why people who return to their hometowns often fall back into old behaviors. The walls remember, the streets remember, the self you thought you left behind is summoned again. Habits are not just actions, they are memories bound to places, and those places do not forget. Every day you move through invisible stages. Each room you enter, each sound you hear, each sight you see, these are cues quietly nudging you toward action. We are not just creatures of willpower, we are creatures of context. If you wish to understand your habits, do not ask only about discipline. Ask instead, what is the environment asking of me? What stage am I stepping onto? What role does this space want me to play? And then remember, though the cues are powerful, the stage can be redesigned. The play can be rewritten. The invisible puppeteers can be replaced. Because in the end, habits are not destiny. They are performances. And you, if you are attentive enough, can choose the stage on which you perform. This was not just about habits. It was about the unseen forces shaping your life. Forces that whisper, not shout. Forces that guide, not command. The question now is simple. What environments will you allow to script you?